All right, so we are talking about Fargo season 5, and this is a crazy, crazy show. It's super wild. And we start by meeting a housewife named Dot. She's with her daughter, Scotty, and it appears they're at her school. Maybe there's some kind of PTA meeting going on, and a whole riot breaks out. And Dot is trying to protect her daughter. She whips out a taser and she accidentally tases a police officer, so she ends up getting arrested. Now, Dot tries to sweetly talk her way out of getting booked and fingerprinted, and you really don't know why, but you get the sense that she's scared, though more so than she should be. And the reason is that people are looking for her, and it doesn't take long for these people to basically come to her home and attack her in her house. And you're going to meet two hitmen, two bagmen, one named Don Ireland, I think his name is, and the other guy is called Old Munch. So Don Ireland and Old Munch break into Dot's house and they get kind of messed up. She goes kind of crazy and she ends up injuring both of them. She gets injured herself, but ultimately they restrain her and take her on a road trip. And apparently she is not really Dot. Her name is not Dot Lion. Her real name is something else, but she has, her ex-husband is looking for her, and we get to meet this ex-husband in another scene. His name is Roy Tillman, played by John Hamm, and John Hamm is in full freaking alpha. I'm not going to say it. He's just really, really on his game as this character who is pretty despicable. He's a sheriff of Stark County. He's a constitutional sheriff, very biblical as far as this influence and the way he sees the world and how he treats women. He is remarried, but he is obsessed with finding Dot. So we flash back to see this kidnapping, and the state troopers end up pulling them over before they get to their destination. Dot takes this opportunity to hit it out of there. Old Munch, he's opening fire. He kills one state trooper. The other one is hiding, trying to not get blown away. And his name is Officer Whit Farr. So Officer Farr, he ends up pretty much taking the same trail that Dot took, and they are hiding in this gas station. And of course, Old Munch, he follows them and he is on his way in there to apprehend Dot again. But Dot starts rigging these traps and getting things ready for both, Mr. Ireland and Mr. Munch to get in there. And they do, and they end up, really taking it to her. But she ends up killing Donald Ireland, and the cop gets shot. But Dot does save him in the end, and Old Munch gets away after playing possum, and Dot hits it back home without, giving any information to the police officer about her name or what was going on. Now, during this time, everyone is at her house and looking at all the destruction and carnage, trying to figure out what happened, and obviously they come to the conclusion that it must be some kind of home invasion, kidnapping. And we meet Indira, a local officer that, is going to be one of the main characters. She's trying to piece everything together. But ultimately she, is kind of left wondering what happened. And Wayne, Dot's husband, who I love this guy. He's just the best character on the show, honestly. He, is obviously worried, and you get to meet his mother, Dot's mother-in-law, played by Jennifer Jason Leigh. Now, this lady is something else. She is a wealthy Daughters of the Confederate woman, and she is a manager or the owner of a debt consolidation firm. So, she pretty much made her fortune off people's shortcomings in their their debt. So she is just in there assuming that there's going to be a ransom, and that Dot is probably in on it and trying to extort her pretty much. So you can get the sense she does not like Dot for her son. So Dot does end up coming back home, of course, since she escaped, and she is denying anything happened, and there's no kidnapping or anything like that. She just got confused and she went for a walk or something. So she's just really nonchalant about everything, but you can tell by her body language how nervous she seems. Like she's kind of jittery, but she's playing it off pretty well, and her husband is pretty oblivious. But the mother-in-law, she's not buying it. She's watching her. She's already suspicious. And we get this great scene of her sitting at the table with Dot and basically accusing her of, orchestrating this whole kidnapping thing and wanting to pay her off to leave her son and her granddaughter. And this is one of the best parts. She, pretty much gives Dot this opportunity to take some money and run. But Dot looks around to make sure her husband wasn't around, or her daughter, and she leans in and she cusses Jennifer Jason Leigh out so bad. And it kind of shocked her to the point where, she just left her alone and got up and left. But she does tell her right hand man, her Olivia Pope named Danish Graves, to watch her and find some dirt on her, or, be ready, basically, because Dot is not who she says she is. And she's right. Her real name is not Dot, it is Nadine. And we meet Nadine's ex-husband, who is a sheriff, this constitutional Bible-thumping sheriff that is misogynistic and probably every other bad label under the sun. And he squares off against two FBI agents that have come to question him about some activity of gun running and a possible militia being formed in his county, and they want him to pretty much do his job and uphold the law, not knowing, or maybe they did know at that point, that he is spearheading this whole endeavor to gather weapons and men to build a militia. And we meet Roy Tillman. This is the sheriff. Roy Tillman's son, his name is Gator. He is also law enforcement. He's a deputy, and he is almost as deplorable as his father. We find out that he is the one that brought in Donald Ireland and Old Munch to, do this job that failed. Old Munch does come to this ranch to speak with them, and he's pretty upset because they did not warn him that Dot was not just a lady, she was a tiger, and pretty much gave him the business. But he plans on finishing the job, but he's going to need some more money for, this type of gig. So Roy reluctantly agrees, but I feel like he gave Gator some kind of signal to be like to handle that. And outside, Gator does try to shoot Old Munch in the back, but Old Munch must have had some extra sensory perception because he was ready. He, got that gun away. He killed two of the other random people that are part of Roy's group, and he escapes. So clearly Roy is not happy, and this is his son, by the way, and you get the sense that Gator is constantly vying for Roy's approval and rarely gets it. Roy wants him to fix it, so Gator goes to visit Officer Witt and try to get information about Dot from him. He ends up, deleting a picture off of the phone that was found, so he wouldn't have any more success in tracking her down. He ends up going through evidence and tampering with something of Donald Ireland. So, he was just trying to obstruct the local police's investigation, and he is an outside local officer from a whole nother county. So Witt is looking like, what are you doing in here? He, what did you just take out of these boxes in here? And this evidence, you're not a part of this police force. But Gator pretty much stares him down, punks him down, and leaves. Gator and another deputy from his father's county go back to the gas station, I guess to investigate or, try to figure out some clues. And Old Munch got the drop on the other deputy while Gator's in the truck killed him and wrote a note on his chest, basically talking about where's my money. So again, Roy is not happy with Gator, and he comes up with a plan for Gator to fix this problem by covering up this accident, the deputy's death, really, and to look for Munch's whereabouts as well. He wants to have him go and kidnap Dot, pick up where old Munch and Mr. Ireland have failed on Halloween. So Halloween is going to be a lot going on, a lot of masks, and it'll just draw less attention because they'll be masked up too. So during this time, Dot is still aware that Roy is not going to give up trying to take her. So she is booby trapping in her house with her daughter. She's going full Home Alone. And this is a great little sequence here. And she does it with such chipper, housemaker energy. And it's unclear if the daughter realizes what's really going on or she's just playing calm because her mom is. But yeah, they're stripping wires and putting nails in bats and glass on doorknobs. It's wild. So the husband does come home and is wondering what's going on, and she makes an excuse that she wanted some extra security, and since they can't really afford to get a high-tech security system, this is what she decided on. They do try to go get a gun, but 2 weeks waiting period is not going to work for her. Dot has this idea that they do a family costume as zombie killers, and it's all a ruse just to have an excuse to have them in tactical gear, basically to protect her family, which I thought was really smart. They got the bulletproof vests and they can carry weapons around, and she just wants to be prepared. But I felt like being prepared would have been to inform her family what was really going on, but she just seems so scared, and you'll find out why as this series develops. But she was right about being prepared. She was changing street signs around, and of course she had the booby traps. But on Halloween night, Gator and a couple of his deputy sidekicks come to her neighborhood. They track her down finally, and they're dressed up like Jack Skellington and the characters from A Nightmare Before Christmas. It was pretty awesome. They break into this house, and of course they get the business. They get all the booby traps. They pretty much get towed up from the floor up. But unfortunately, so does Wayne. The husband accidentally electrocutes himself on one of the booby traps, and it's not good for him. He ends up getting admitted to the hospital. The other assailants also get away. So this is another home invasion situation that's happening, and Dot does not want to tell anyone what's going on. So everybody's kind of watching her, trying to figure out what the deal is, especially Jennifer Jason Leigh. She's there at the hospital. Her son is incapacitated and probably has some kind of memory loss or something now. She's not happy. You also have Officer Witt that is concerned because he knows that this woman saved his life. So he wants to make sure she's okay. He's a genuinely good person. Him and Indira, the other officer, they end up kind of joining forces and exchanging notes on this situation. So they begin coming up with this scenario about her being on the run from somebody, and turns out the FBI agents kind of put some more pieces together. Even though they're not really concerned about Dot, they are more concerned about this militia gun situation, but they give them enough information to piece together why Dot is so scared. Meanwhile, old Munch is doing dark magic. Listen, I don't mess with demons. Y'all, but he's in there. He's doing dark magics. There's a flashback. It's showing 500 years ago, he was a poor man that the church brought in to basically cleanse this dead person of his sins in his life by eating this meal to represent the sinfulness that he had in life. And he did this for a couple shillings basically, but him doing this pretty much cursed him in a way. So he's been living all this time, but a half kind of existence and kind of a cursed, poisoned existence, I suppose. So a lot of supernatural stuff going on with Munch. He's really creepy. He breaks into Roy Tillman's home when he's not there. He's like muddy and naked, covered with who knows what. And I'm thinking, oh Lord, the children are innocent, don't mess with the children. But apparently no one was there, but Roy comes in and finds the evidence of him being there. So of course he's a little perturbed by that. Also, Roy visits this couple that he had counseled earlier about domestic violence, and he notices the wife has more bruises on her. He insults the husband, but the husband goes to attack him, but Roy kills his man right in his own home. It's pretty crazy. So you get to see how serious Roy is. And this is a law enforcement officer. He's a sheriff, but he murders this man in his home. He tells, the wife, make sure she knows she's not going to say anything, but basically tells Gator to frame the dead husband for Munch's crimes at the gas station to halt the police investigation. Dot and her daughter Scotty end up staying at Lorraine's home. She's got a nice big old mansion, and you get to see their Christmas cards with like the guns and everything. It's pretty funny. But secretly, Lorraine is plotting to get Dot institutionalized. She gets Mr. Danish, do his thing because he's the fixer. He's doing all the dirty work. But at the hospital, you do take Dot, but Dot escapes from the hospital. She she bounces on one of the orderlies. She basically went saber-tooth tiger on him too, and she escapes. She wants to go see her husband, but Roy has come to see Lorraine as well. They got enough information to figure out she's remarried, and Lorraine tries to offer him money for his re-election campaign to get rid of him, but he's not having it, and they do not like each other from the jump. So you already see this friction. His men over here, Indira, come to report that she had escaped after being admitted. So Roy goes to intercept her basically and sends men to kidnap Wayne at the hospital. Now Dot, she barely evades them, and she overhears them. They were looking for Wayne, so she dupes them, switching out her husband with another patient, and they end up taking the wrong man. She ends up going to Indira for help, which was a smart move. She asks her to take care of Scotty for a little while, and she has to go take care of some other business. Now Roy is really pissed. He tries to mess with Lorraine's business. She's been trying to buy these banks and kind of expand her empire. He approaches a guy named Duggar coming out of a strip club, and apparently he's some kind of official in the government, so he makes him, or actually he does have dealings with the bank, so he makes him back off this deal and not sell his bank to Lorraine, which will probably end up being a big mistake that he made. The FBI agents, they end up telling Indira that they're basically hip to what's going on with Dot, and they're just basically using her as bait and watching Roy to wait till he makes a mistake, which is pretty awful. Roy decides to go ahead and pay off old Munch before any more damage is done, but Gator, I don't know if he was ordered to do this or not, but he puts a tracking device on old Munch's car. Now Indira has a lot going on at home. She's a cop, and got Scotty, got Dot's daughter, but she ends up taking her back to Lorraine. Again, I feel like that is a smart thing to do. She's got money, and she gives her a file on Dorothy's abuse by Roy. Has a lot of pictures and things. This clearly affects Lorraine, and you can see that something in her has shifted. She offers Indira a position as her head of security, and noticing that she doesn't seem too happy, as her present duties are kind of all over the place, or she sees something in her basically. During this time, old Munch had also been still hanging around the area, but he broke into this house to have somewhere to stay, and it was an old lady that lived there. Her name was Miss Linda. Now Miss Linda, she just liked to drink her little beers and watch her little TV. She wasn't messing with nobody. She found old Munch in her house. She was shook, she was scared, but he didn't do anything. He didn't want to hurt her. He just, said some weird stuff that he normally would say, and she went on back to smoking her Misty Menthol Lights 100s in the box. So Gator follows old Munch, and he finds out where he's staying. He's planning to murder him, and old Munch is still got his extrasensory perception is working, because he again fools Gator into thinking he's in the window, or being visible when it's a decoy. But unfortunately, Miss Linda was coming home from the corner store with her 6-pack and sees Gator out there trying to break into old Munch's car, because he thought the money was still in the bag. And she starts to make a scene, or tries to stop him, and Gator, it was an accident that he made her fall, and she dies. She bumps her head, she dies. So old Munch is upset, and you just know this is going to end badly. Meanwhile, Dot is on a trip after she found a card or something that had a postcard, and it said Camp Utopia on it, and it kind of triggered a memory for her. So she was going to find someone to help her, and she ends up going to this women's shelter run by Roy's first wife. Her name was Linda, and this is Gator's mother. Now Dot has a lot of resentment towards Linda for basically turning her into a victim, and she escaped. So it was kind of like she groomed her and then left her, or that's how she perceived it after this time, and thinking back on that time. Now Linda has a lot of other battered women there at this shelter, and they got a weird vibe going on there. It's like, I feel uncomfortable just thinking about what they were doing in there. But they make a puppet to basically vent her grievances, and it's kind of like a mock trial / puppet show. Dot wasn't really feeling it, but she had to do this in order to get her point across. Now she vents to her and to everyone there, and it's received, and Linda decides she will go with her to testify against Roy. Unfortunately, it comes to find out that Dot was streaming this whole sequence, and she hadn't really left the diner where she fell asleep to find this women's shelter. And she leaves, she gets up, drives away, but she is knocked off the road by a car, and she wakes up in the hospital only to find Roy standing at her bedside. Awful. Now Mr. Danish has a plan to mess with Roy because of his interfering with his boss's business. So he selects 3 guys from the Lion Book of Debtors, as they call them, and he has all of their names changed to Roy Tillman. Now at the hospital, Officer Witt happens to be there, and he witnesses Roy trying to forcibly get Dot to come with him, and he can tell something's wrong, and he tries to intervene and to help her. But unfortunately, Roy has several deputies with him. He's outnumbered, and Dot, basically says she's fine, she's okay, so he doesn't get hurt, because she knows how Roy gets down. And Officer Witt is a good man, and she's basically trying to protect him. Roy does take her back to his compound and chains her up in the barn immediately. And then he goes to his debate for his re-election as sheriff. But he finds out that there are 3 other people on the ballot with his name, and they basically are on stage with him, sabotaging him. And Roy gets so mad, he loses his cool, and the female moderator says something that he did not care for, and he ends up hitting this lady in front of everybody. It's a meltdown, and we see Mr. Danish in the back with this wicked grin. He had done all this, and it succeeded probably better than he had planned, so he walks out looking pretty pleased with himself. While Dot is locked in this barn, Gator ends up going in to speak with her, and they have a moment where they kind of have a understanding and a tenderness between them. And she asks him to basically to help her, and saying that I remember when you were young and a boy, and I tried to look out for you,